The Egyptian president welcomes Iran's foreign minister and the IAEA Director General in Cairo. The IAEA Director General announces significant cooperation with Egypt regarding nuclear energy. And Iran's foreign minister affirms the significant progress of relations between Tehran and Cairo. The Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has welcomed the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi in Cairo. Araghchi conveyed greetings from the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. They emphasized the importance of enhancing bilateral relations. Discussions also covered regional developments, with President al-Sisi reiterating Egypt's opposition to escalating conflicts and the urgent need for a ceasefire in Gaza. The Iranian minister acknowledged Egypt's role in regional stability. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has met with the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi. President al-Sisi expressed Egypt's appreciation for the IAEA's vital role in nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament, emphasizing the need for a nuclear-free Middle East. Grossi acknowledged Egypt's historical contributions to disarmament. They also discussed regional developments and Egypt's efforts to restore stability in the region. And in Cairo, Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati has greeted the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi for political consultations. The two counterparts discussed enhancing bilateral relations and addressed crucial regional issues, including the situations in Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, and maritime security in the Red Sea. A productive meeting took place in Cairo between Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati and the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi. Abdelati and Grossi focused on enhancing collaboration with the International Atomic Energy Agency. And Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati has reaffirmed the country's commitment to establishing a nuclear weapons-free zone. During a press conference with the IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi in Cairo, Abdelati expressed Egypt's readiness to support peaceful efforts regarding Iran's nuclear program and rejected calls for military action. Emphasizing the importance of a diplomatic solution, Egypt's foreign minister underscored adherence to the non-proliferation principles and the IAEA initiatives. The discussions also covered negotiations between Tehran and Washington, as well as Egypt's El Daba nuclear project as a key energy diversification effort. The Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, has announced significant cooperation between Egypt and the agency regarding nuclear energy. During a press conference with the Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati, Grossi highlighted Egypt's new phase in nuclear energy development through the El Daba nuclear power project. Grossi emphasized the IAEA's strong support for this initiative, which is set to begin operations in 2 years. He also expressed gratitude for Egypt's role in nuclear negotiations involving Iran and the United States. And Egypt's Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati has expressed Egypt's full support for the US-Iran negotiations and the pursuit of a peaceful resolution to the nuclear file, prioritizing non-proliferation principles. In a press conference with his Iranian counterpart, Abdelati emphasized the importance of regional security and stability. Acknowledging the importance of maritime security, he warned against military escalation in the region. Abdelati highlighted the need for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and the delivery of humanitarian aid. He added that the Palestinian cause remains central to regional conflict. The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has stated that relations between Tehran and Cairo are progressing significantly and are currently at their best, with no obstacles to further enhancement. During a press conference with the Egyptian counterpart Badr Abdelati in Cairo, Araghchi noted efforts to expand political consultations and increase trade between the two nations. Araghchi praised Egyptian and Qatari efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza, reaffirmed Iran's commitment to a peaceful nuclear program, and emphasized the need for dialogue to resolve regional crises. And for more analysis, we now move to Hala El-Hamalawi in our newsroom. Hello, Hala.
Thank you very much, Salman. For further analysis on the matter, Mr. Ahmaduddin Hussein, the editor-in-chief of Shurut newspaper and Egyptian senator, joins us from Cairo. Welcome to Qnews, sir. Now, in light of Iranian foreign minister's visit to Cairo, how does Egypt's rejection of military solutions reflect its broader diplomatic strategy in addressing regional conflicts and rising tensions with regards to Iran's nuclear program?
Upon all, such a visit is very important regarding the time and the presence of the General Director of IAEA. We know that there is a full official relation between Egypt and Iran that developing. Today, the visit of the Foreign Minister of Iran is a great development, not only bilateral ties, but with respect to the conflict in the region and the Israeli threats against the nuclear facilities in Iran, and along with the US-Iranian talks regarding the nuclear program. Therefore, I think that it is exposing developing ties between Egypt and Iran, along with IAE and Egypt's reaffirmation on the main principles of the non-proliferation in the region. And most importantly, what is stated by the Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati reaffirmed that Egypt's rejection in the escalation in the region or shift or transferring the nuclear American program into a conflict in the region.
Mr. Hussein, the meeting between President Sisi and the Iranian foreign minister carries many messages. In your own opinion, what are the most important of these messages?
Messages that Egypt-Iranian ties are developing, that stipulated in the statement of the Egyptian presidency that has been agreed upon in working to escalate the ties between the two countries, along with the full rejection of Egypt and its reaffirmation in order to have a peaceful agreement, and most importantly, rejecting the Israeli threats attacking the Iranian facilities, and importantly, the solutions of Palestine that will eradicate the justifications and pretexts either from Israel or in some countries in the region, and it is viewed the the conflict in the region, but clearly that Israel wishes all the time to push the US to the joint attacks on the nuclear facilities or bilateral attacks. But it is noticeably that through the ongoing negotiation between US and Iran, either in Oman or in Rome.
So what are the geopolitical and security implications of Egypt's call for a nuclear weapons-free zone in the Middle East, especially in the context of Israel's undeclared nuclear arsenal and Iran's nuclear ambitions? Sir, can you hear me?
Whoever is following this matter would realize that Egypt was in the forefront of the pain and a great concern in this dossier. In the 90s, along with Amr Moussa as foreign minister, such a file was very important in the Egyptian diplomacy, with the necessity of the making the Israeli, or rather the Middle East region, to be free of the nuclear threat. And Egypt is still repeating and reaffirming and emphasizing the issue, as it isn't correct for an sole country to sole nuclear technology and fighting other countries, and even if these countries that they are pushing for developing such a technology for only and solely to produce electricity in such countries.
So how does Egypt play a prominent role in bridging the gap between Iran and the International Atomic Energy Agency?
Truly, for the interest of Egypt to avoid the region into a military conflict, particularly including in a part of nuclear side, as Iran is attacking nuclear facilities in Iran, that would cause a great catastrophe, as Iran would, as an area of intercepting the nuclear missiles, and therefore Egypt's eagerness that such indulgence of a military conflict will have a great impact in the region, as Egypt has always to warn of this matter and to reaffirm more than time of the necessity of reaching a peaceful solution and agreement, and to have some sort of a political agreement in order to avoid the region of such a matter.
Well, that was Mr. Ahmaduddin Hussein from Cairo, the editor-in-chief of Shrout newspaper and Egyptian senator. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on Qnews. And now we go back to Salma Al-Faqi in our studio. To you, Salma.
Thank you, Hela. And now we go to the latest developments in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Russian media reported that a delegation from Moscow, headed by the Kremlin official Vladimir Medensky, arrived in Istanbul to hold talks with Ukraine. And Kiev expressed its readiness to take significant steps towards peace during the second round of negotiations with the Russian delegation in Istanbul. Ukrainian officials said that Russia launched a drone attack on the eastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, injuring at least 6 people. Ole Sinabov stated via the Telegram app that 2 children were among the injured. Russia announced it had taken control of a new village in Ukraine's Sumy region, prompting authorities in Kiev to issue mandatory evacuation orders for 200 border villages. The Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed full control over a village near the Russian border following a series of battlefield gains in the region in recent weeks. It also announced the capture of the village of Novopil in Donetsk. And German Chief of Staff warned that NATO is facing a very serious threat from Russia, a threat he said he has never seen before in his 40 years of service. He pointed out that Moscow is currently massively strengthening its forces, producing around 1,500 main battle tanks annually, many of which could be used to launch an attack on NATO member states by 2029 or even earlier. At least 3 civilians described as starving have died and 35 others were injured near a U.S.-backed aid distribution center in the Palestinian area of southern Gaza. According to the enclave's government media office, since Israel's new aid mechanism began operating on May the 27th, the total number of people killed while eating food in Rafah and Netzarim corridor has reached 52, with at least 340 injured. The statement accuses Israel of continuing a policy of starvation and systematically targeting civilians over the past 93 days. And the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the OHCHR, has strongly condemned Israel's handling of aid distribution in Gaza, warning that it is a militarized approach, violating international standards and endangers civilians. According to the UN, at least 18 Palestinians were killed and 80 injured between May the 27th and the 31st, with more deaths reported on Sunday. Said Israel's aid mechanism is contributing to the crisis in Gaza and warned that restricting access to food and life sustaining services could amount to war crimes and potentially even acts of genocide. And the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, urging him to allow more emergency humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. A spokesman for Merz emphasized the urgent need for Israel to immediately permit sufficient aid deliveries and ensure their safe distribution within Gaza. The call comes amid mounting international criticism over Israeli forces shooting and killing desperate aid seekers at distribution points operated by the US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has warned that the situation in Gaza is getting worse by the day, stressing the urgent need for increased humanitarian aid to reach the Palestinian enclave. Starmer described conditions in Gaza as intolerable and highlighted efforts underway with international allies to make it absolutely clear that humanitarian aid must get in quickly and at much greater volumes than at present, he said, noting the devastating consequences of the current shortfall. And the Chilean President Gabriel Boric has pledged to intensify pressure on Israel over its war in Gaza during his government's remaining 9 months in office. Delivering his final annual address to the National Congress, Boric announced plans to introduce legislation banning imports from what he described as illegally occupied territories and to support Spain's push for an arms embargo against Israel. Known for his outspoken criticism of Israel, Boric recently recalled military personnel from Chile's embassy in Israel and summoned the Israeli ambassador for questioning. World Food Programme, the WFP Executive Director, McCain, warned that Gaza is on the brink of a humanitarian catastrophe like none other unless immediate action is taken. McCain urged the Israeli government to grant the UN agency full access to the enclave to deliver urgently needed aid. She called for an immediate ceasefire and unrestricted humanitarian access, including the opening of all crossings to prevent further suffering. McCain also confirmed reports that Israeli forces killed at least 31 Palestinians seeking food aid at a Gaza Humanitarian Foundation distribution point in Rafah on Sunday, calling the incident a tragedy echoed by the WFP staff on the ground. Israeli occupation forces have destroyed the Noura El-Kaabi kidney dialysis center in Beit Lahia, the only dialysis facility serving northern Gaza. The center, located in the Indonesian hospital, had been treating more than 160 patients with kidney failure. It had recently resumed operations after being damaged in a previous attack. The ministry warned that 41% of Gaza's kidney failure patients have died during the war due to restricted access to dialysis treatment and the repeated destruction of medical infrastructure. And Claire Manara, the emergency coordinator, MSF at hospitals, has distributed struggles with severe shortages of medical supplies amid relentless Israeli attacks. She explained that the cases are critical and severe shortages of medical supplies are worsening due to the Israeli blockade, which has been in place since March the 2nd. She said to cope with the shortage, hospital staff have been donating their own blood to help save patients. Manara emphasized the urgent need for an immediate ceasefire, as well as the delivery of large-scale humanitarian aid to prevent further disaster. And that brings us to the end of our news bulletin, and here's what we have been covering. The Egyptian president welcomes Iran's foreign minister and the IAEA Director General in Cairo. The IAEA Director General announces significant cooperation with Egypt regarding nuclear energy. And Iran's foreign minister affirms the significant progress of the relations between Tehran and Cairo. And this concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at QNewsEG to stay informed. And thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.